Yeah, I wanted to do a video on my 14-gallon Biocube that I bought about 2.5 months ago. I haven't seen too many 14-gallon Biocube videos on YouTube, and I figured I'd go ahead and put one myself on there. Anyway, I got this used on Craigslist for $100. It came with a stand, basic PC lightings, 10K, 24 watts, and actinic 24 watts. Came with a couple of live rocks. There wasn't much in there. They hadn't taken very good care of it at all, and which is probably why they were selling it. So picked this up, got it home, put a lot more live rock in it, let it do its thing for the last 2.5 months. It actually came with this stand, which I didn't really like when I saw it, but it came with it, so I wasn't going to be like, oh, I don't want this. Plus, I didn't want to have to build a stand for it. And it doesn't look too bad, but there's no storage for it. You can't put a separate refugium. You can't put any chemical. You can't store anything in there, obviously. So we left it like it was. I did purchase a K2 Viper metal halide used. You can't really find these that much anymore. So I was really happy to get this. I got it for $100. It came with like 4 separate bulbs, a 20K, 15, 14, and a 10. So I'll always have a backup, and if I get sick of the way this looks, then I can kind of change it out. As you can see, I didn't do the typical rimless, with just the metal halide on there. I didn't like the rimless look. I have the Biocube protein skimmer in there, and that kind of stuck out. Plus, I have returns and intakes and cords and all that crap hanging out the back. And I liked the way it looked with the lid on there. So I figured that since it already had this large feeding area here on the top, I would just pop that off. And honestly, from the way it lights the tank, it gets a good 3/4 of the tank with the metal halide, and you won't be putting coral behind the rocks. So that works for me. I like the way it looks, and I'm able to keep the PC lighting in there as well. Now the way I've got the lighting set up is I've got the actinics coming on around 9 o'clock, something like that, and they run for an hour. They stay on actually the entire day for 12 hours. And then the 10K PC lights come on for 2.5, 3 hours, something like that. They shut off. The metal halide comes on, runs for 6.5 hours. Metal halide shuts off, then the 10Ks come on for another couple hours, and then they go off, and then eventually the actinics go off. So they're getting a full spectrum of lighting. They got weak PC 10Ks, the actinics. I wanted the actinics to give it a little more blue color, even though the 15K in the metal halide actually does a pretty good job, but I figured I'd just keep it the way it was since I was keeping the hood. I like it. So as far as the tank goes, it's been doing fairly well. The problem that I was having for the first 2 months is that the tank had cycled pretty good, and the live rock that I got needed to cycle a little bit, but when all that was said and done, the nitrates were still around 80 parts per million, and everything else was perfect as far as chemistry goes. So I started to look into separate filtration and refugiums and whatnot. The bad part about that is, there's no storage down there, so I had to put it somewhere else. And as you can see, there's some tubes running to behind my entertainment area here. I was kind of upset because this bottom section here, they're separating the sides, obviously. This bottom section here was 1.5 inches too small to support a 10-gallon aquarium, which is what I really wanted for my refugium. So I had to, find other options. I thought about making my own custom refugium. Looked around for acrylic. I'm kind of cheap, so I didn't want to spend, hundreds of dollars on a sheet of acrylic, or even try to go find people to cut it for me. I didn't want to do all that. I like to make things myself. So what I did was I bought a used sump from a buddy, which was way too big. I mean, it was like 2.5 feet long. Pretty cheap. It was like $20. And I cut it down and resealed it, to fit in this area here. The only bad thing is, when you're options are limited like that. You know, there's already a sump design on the acrylic sump. You know, there's not much you can do to that. You just kind of have to go with how it's designed, sort of. But I'm happy with what I did. The refugium may not be set up exactly how you're supposed to set it up, but since it's been set up for a week, it's already lowered my nitrates down to 20. So that's pretty impressive to me. And that was when I was able to buy my clownfish. Actually, 3 days ago, I got a pair of clownfish. Check those guys out. Got a pair of clownfish here. And they are awesome. They're very healthy. Very fun to watch. I've always liked clownfish. I've got, you know, just a handful of corals in there. I haven't had much time to really to get many things. I didn't want to throw a bunch of stuff in there without, you know, figuring out what I wanted to do with it. Some zoanthids, a bird's nest, frog spawn, cleanup crew. There's some starfish in there somewhere. But I've got the nano Corellia pump or wave maker over there. The wave deflector back there on the original pump from the aquarium. I actually decided to keep the balls that came with the aquarium back in there. I didn't want to mess with that. I do take them out occasionally to kind of clean them up a little bit, because that's probably where the nitrates were causing such issues in the first place. Because, like I said, when I got the tank, it was pretty nasty. Did get the protein skimmer. I'm not going to open that lid up to show you the protein skimmer, but it's okay. It's not my top choice. I don't necessarily like airstone powered protein skimmers. I'd rather have something with a motor or the propeller on there. But it does the job. The only problem is you got to mess with it all the time and set it, and tweak it a little bit. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. But as far as my refugium, this is how it's going here. There's the intake for the refugium here. I had to cut a piece of the backing of the Biocube there, and it goes down in the section of the aquarium back there. And here's what I come up with. This is the acrylic sump that I got from a buddy. And as you can see over here, this is where I cut it down. It would have went on for another foot and a half, something like that. And I had to switch sides. I had to cut a bunch of parts to fit how I wanted. There's the intake with a shutoff valve from the aquarium. That shutoff valve makes it really easy to do, cleanup and water changes. You don't have to worry about backflow or anything like that. It does come down directly into an area where I've set up a small little refugium. Typically I wouldn't have wanted to do this, but this is what I had to do for this type of setup. I've got a little light, for my chaeto down there. I threw a live rock in there. I've got a pretty deep sand bed, so we'll see how that works out. I've also got the first area up here is got a bag of purigen, and then the section underneath it has chemi pure elite, and then it just goes into my pump there. I've got a couple of filter pads in there to prevent vibration, because that pump there I got used as well from a buddy, and it's not that quiet. Luckily though, when this is this cabinet's closed, it does close off a lot of the noise. But that goes back to the tank where I put this together. I had to drill a hole back in the side here, and then it goes down in the area of the tank here. This is just a black piece of PVC. I wanted it black because it matches just about all the other black background. The back here, you can't really notice it. Put a plug in the bottom, and then I cut the little notches in the pipe there, or the PVC pipe, for the flow back into the tank. Works great. Not too strong, not too light. Works great for me, and it looks pretty good. You can see it from the front of the tank. It does kind of get blocked a little bit from the wave deflector, but it still has pretty good flow. You can see some stuff kind of floating on the side there. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Right now, 2.5 months old. Looks pretty good. Chemistry's perfect right now as far as I'm concerned. So I'm super happy. And a little bit further back. Yeah. But anyway, that's my setup. Thanks for checking it out.